what I'm gonna say is that he wants to frame it as, oh, well, I couldn't get my whole side out. No, you went first. You put your side out first, and then we responded. He's omitting that completely. He already gave his side. If his side had anything of substance, he would have used it from the jump when he first put it out. He didn't, because he didn't have all of what he put out easily debunked.
I also just want to add, like with my doc, that my doc that he finds the big bad wolf to take down, like solely my doc, not SK and I's. I do make it very clear that this isn't like the objective facts as they are. This is also my perception. The screenshots are there to show these events did happen. It doesn't mean they happened exactly as I describe for all of them, because I could be missing information. I'm not there for every conversation. Like the Kira stuff, I didn't know the recording was sent over. So Southpaw needs to get off this whole, oh, he's deliberately missing information, to be like, oh, hey, he might not have this information. Maybe I should clear it up with him. I don't know. Maybe that would be easier. But no, I think he, not to
I would think talking it out would resolve something.
Yeah, but you're asking Southpaw to be his age, and that's not happening.
So, regarding this thing with Kira, I have a question. So you were told by Synth that I gave Kira the recording, right? In that VC?
Listen, if we're going to go through that, we need to go through what was actually addressed inside of there. So what claims did you make regarding Kira? Can you pull up your doc maybe? We can go through that and then talk about it.
Well, sure. Yeah, we can go ahead and go through the doc. I can pull it up on screen here. So, all right. So I'm going to just quickly read this out. So you said the second red flag came around the handling of the Chase situation. Chase was also someone in the EFAP sphere. He guested on Ecom and would on EFAP. One day allegations from his ex Kira came out about his abusive behavior. He publicly denied this and alluded that she was doing it out of revenge and attention. He messaged Southpaw shortly after this asking to call. Southpaw accepted. Chase spoke about how Mueller and company cut ties with him. Up to this point, I have no problems with what you say here. It's like, I'd say factually accurate so far, like 100%. Doing pretty good. But we fall into issues right here. Chase, so after you say Chase spoke out about how Mueller and company cut ties with him, that's fine. The very next thing you say, though, is this was because the allegations were true and they said he couldn't be part of the podcast and hoped he'd get help to work on himself. Chase did not confirm that the allegations were true to me in that call. In fact, I have a message from you verifying this. Southpaw also focused on EFAP, and Chase would claim that EFAP are mad about that and we're planning a dossier. The dossier is never brought up in the call. I've re-listened to it. This was all found to be a lie. Southpaw brought it all and pretended he was JCS about it at the time. You, Jeb, believed in the existence of the stock, as well as Sky and Shandy. And also, I didn't pretend to be JCS about it. I did believe that the doc was real because everyone else did. But the thing that I mentioned JCS about was I literally was prompting him, like I was giving him someone to listen, like an ear to listen to, because that's what you do to get people to talk. Southpaw informed us he had this evidence, and we saw clearly that Kira was asking for any evidence that someone may have. We all collectively said to provide this to her. The screenshots are linked here. I've already mentioned to you earlier, your own screenshots show you guys tell me to release the recording, and there's a shit ton of others that exist, including from Sky and from you, both saying to publicize the recording. So I'm not accepting this send the recording to Kira thing. After this, he started calling Wayne Manor SK server. This was at a time a public server and had hundreds of people. He played the recording there, breaking each part down. The justification for this is to get the relevant parts to her and then be able to send it. As you can see, this was not treated at all as it should have been. And the very first word in this screenshot after you say that is the N word in all caps. That was great to see. As seen below, you can see that the situation was being...
I want to make something clear in regards to this, is that I agree with Jeb. I don't like how you handled this. That's as far as it goes for me, though.
Okay, that's fine.
But I agree with the sentiment. I wish you hadn't handled it the way that you did.
Mm-hmm. So, as you can see below, you can see that... as seen below, you can see the situation was being joked about on on Twitter and by Southpaw, and that the focus hasn't been Kira with it being tangents. These are just some of the conversations. I was refused to be in the call, which I'll get into in a second. Now, in your call with Evan, you said you refused to be in the call. In your doc, it says I was refused. I assume that this was just a typo, so I'll just assume that.
Yeah.
In the end, Kira never got that recording because 2 days later, I believe, she said that she didn't want to continue the situation further. Okay, so there's a lot to go over there. So I mentioned to Synth that Kira did get the recording. Now, I didn't show Synth anything that proved that. I said it to him, but I didn't like show any receipts. I mentioned, well, Jeb said this, but this is factually wrong. I've got receipts that prove this. The thing is, Jeb, that there was something else that I showed Synth that Synth kind of didn't show you, and I think that he did you an active disservice. I showed him, well, so here's the thing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a screen share of this real quick. Go live. All right, so this is us. I'm going to click message. So this is our message. So, Jeb, if I look at this, I said to you on October 23rd, I don't know if you know this, but you know how there was that whole controversy in regards to Kira? Up until very recently, Kira was in that GC. We only removed her because she just wasn't saying anything in there and wanted Jake back. But yeah, she was in there. We showed her the Chase Face recording, and you said to that, was she okay?
So yeah, big shock. Thor showing up in Wakanda. Hi, Kira. How you doing?
Hi, Kira.
Hi. I'm good. How are y'all?
Doing great.
I'm doing.
You're doing?
Obviously, Southpaw had his Wakanda moment, but this is basically just you here to clarify whatever about anything, because you're the one that revolved around all of this. You're the one who can say what did and did not happen, basically. So
For sure.
So Kira, what I wanted to quickly say,
Jeb, from those points regarding Kira, do you stand by anything? Because again, we're obviously going to ask them directly, like what about this. So, with what you referred to Kira instead of the doc, what do you stand by or not stand by?
Sorry, just stretching. There we go. Let me read through it. I know Sap obviously read it, but
Please take your time.
where is it? I was kind of reading along. Obviously, we agreed that part of it's absolutely factual. I have the initial question of, like, you said that nowhere in the call Chase mentioned the dossier.
correct.
Where was that mentioned? Because obviously you would have got that from somewhere.
So I literally
That one was being worked on.
right. So Shandy said this was actually one of the first things that I prove in my doc. Funny enough. So chapter 1.2 is called EFAP's dossier. So what I do here, give me 1 second, is I post this copy. Well, I mean, I guess I'll go ahead and put in the doc reading thing. As for this dossier against me that EFAP was allegedly working on, Jeb's doc frames it like that as something that only came to my attention in this call with Chase, which happened on February 1st, 2022, when in reality it had not only already been brought to my attention by Shandy when he spoke to Chase towards the beginning of January, but Jeb, Sky, SK, and company all also knew about this claim from Chase and believed this dossier was real just as I did. Here's my... so I sent these DMs between me and Shandy. And there's you saying bruh. Now the thing is that right after, just pay attention to the screen, to this timestamp. So that's February 13th. That's the day that this is all like erupting basically. Sky says we knew this, and Sky says I've known about this since the day Shandy had the call with Chase. Now what day did Shandy have the call with Chase? Well, thankfully Shandy sent a screenshot to me voluntarily that day saying that he had a call with Chaseface on January 7th, and that's when he told me and Sky. That's when we were told about this dossier. Not in this call with Chase. Like, you just got your wires crossed. And that's fine. Like, you didn't fabricate anything. You got your wires crossed. Not a big deal. Yeah. So, That's yeah. As far as admitted the allegations were true to Southpaw, that's kind of what you imply in your doc, on the basis of the chronological order of those two sentences. The problem is, Jeb, that you said this in the slaughterhouse right after watching the VC and said, this doesn't provide much of what we didn't know. In fact, there's another exchange from Sky that shows up in this doc where she admits to to SK, the doc didn't have anything of value anyways. But 30 minutes after admitting that, complains that I said I wasn't going to do anything with the recording, as if that's damning against me when I would have... I'm assuming that the better faith idea is if the recording didn't have anything of value, then that means that I, the person that actually had the call and would know the contents of the recording before anyone had a chance to watch the call, wouldn't have figured that there was anything of the recording worth using. Therefore, I wasn't going to use anything with the recording. But for some reason, this is used as evidence against me. That's weird. But yeah, there's just like right here, and the call is also going to be publicly available in this doc. I'm publicizing, like, I'm allowing the link. I'm allowing everyone to see what I said to Chaseface. I don't have anything to hide. Sure, I vented about EFAP a little bit. Sure. I don't think, I mean, Kira can tell you what they have to say about that VC that they watched in full with SK. There's nothing I did wrong here.
Jeb, do you have any input here? Because obviously, or Southpaw, whatever, the person is going to go through everything. Do you have something to say regarding this and regarding Kira? Like, now that they're here, and
in relation, I guess we'll go for it chronologically. We've just tackled the allegations were true thing. I'd retract Chase explicitly saying all allegations were true. Obviously, he admitted the cat abuse.
He downplayed it,
the
but yeah,
washing
sure.
machine.
among other things, obviously.
Yeah, with the washing machine, I think it was.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because
He tortured his fucking cat, so.
you did acknowledge
Yeah.
this stuff. You said,
more than that.
yeah,
I just want to. Sorry, Kira, if you're not aware, I am hard of hearing. So if there's multiple voices, I might not hear you.
Oh no, no
Just as a
problem.
heads up. Just
Okay.
as a heads up.
how you doing, Kira?
I am doing well. How are you guys?
Doing great.
I'm doing.
I'm utterly shattered.
Ah,
It's 1 a.m. It's 1 a.m.
Wait, I was about to say, it's like tired. I was wondering about that. Like, you seemed to be on the tired end, and I was like, oh man. I think I did the math wrong on my computer. I think I was calculating it. I thought that this was like super early for you, that it was like 8 or something like that.
If
But
it's any
I think
consolation, I have to be.
I should have probably picked an earlier date or something like that. I was willing to do the 6-hour grind. I just didn't realize.
If it's any consolation, I've got an early morning tomorrow too, so I am losing sleep
Dude,
over this. But I am what I'm saying is I am invested in this. Like I'm sacrificing something so we can hash this out.
Yeah, I get that you'll probably you're tired. I get it, but yeah, all right.
So yeah, he admitted obviously the cat stuff, so that'd be poor wording on my end.
Well, you said
Yeah.
the most we
Yeah.
get genuinely is answer about the cat stuff. You said that right after the first thing
Yeah.
that I underlined, which is like, it's fine. Sure, but like, again, he downplays it by saying that he picked it up for like a second. And again, I actually go through this in chapter 1.3.5 is the Chaseface's call takes place. It goes into the context of it. And then I say there's a basic highlight reel. And because it's not on YouTube, it's a Google Drive link. I basically give like the idea of like the time, like I timestamp everything. And I transcribe basically what happened. And it's like, here's the craziest stuff. There's a lot of awkward, weird shit because he talks about his sex life with Kira, and that's fucking weird. And that's uncomfortable. And he mentions I've been fucking creepy. But there's a lot of things that he says where it's like, you even said in that one screenshot there that this is like, it requires a lot of conjecture and assumptions, and you don't want to be doing that. So again, it's like, sure, it's weird, but there's nothing really evidentiary here.
Right.
Okay. So,
How do we want to structure this? I mean, how do you want to play this? Because like I was saying, I figured the best way to do this would just be to go through Jeb's doc more
Well,
than
what-
yours. I
well-
mean, you obviously have cross references, and yours is a response. But I mean,
Well,
like
we
we
speed
may
this
as
up.
well just go through.
We can speed this up quick. I mean, there's a short. We'll give a short version first. So Jeb, when you spoke with Evan at the beginning of February, and you were like you weren't sure what Kira was told. So on January 12th was the very first time I ever told Kira that anything involving this was happening. I didn't tell Kira at any point prior to that point, despite the fact that prior to me first getting involved with Kira, a few months prior, Shandy got this whole narrative off the ground in the first place. And I didn't go to them when Sky and Shandy were dredging this up to Madvocate. I didn't go to them at any point while Madvocate was talking to me. I waited until this year because I was at the end of my rope. Especially because there's been repeated attempts to clarify the stuff with you. Our stories have been the same. Now, when I first informed Kira and I recorded this, I read through this section of your doc to them. So it's like in terms of what did I tell Kira, I was like, well, I gave Kira a chance to look at your side of the story after they've already watched through the recording and had plenty of DMs with me about this. And just there's one thing I want to do quickly before we continue. I would never assume that you would be the kind of person to levy this accusation, but I'm just going to do this anyways. So this right here, it says Southpaw just slid into the server on June 16, 2022. And if I just look up
Who the hell is this?
I'm
looping it.
This is Kira's server. I'm just showing. So on June 16, 2022, I jump into Kira's server. That's Kira.
Yep.
This is the real deal. This is not an actor. This is the real Kira. I then got into a private call with Kira. And I explained the situation. I show screenshots of my first interaction with them. I didn't want to, but I felt like, well, I got into a call with them. It wasn't recorded, but I did basically. I take screenshots of like, well, here's what I sent Kira during that call. You can kind of glean how this goes. And give me 1 second here. I can sort of show. So Kira messages me here. And now I understand that this is a different profile picture. Kira changes their profile picture from time to time.
I changed it probably like 3 times in the span of this one to the current one.
This is June 16, 2022. This is right after what I just showed you. And that right there on in that second screenshot, that's the recording. They didn't just screen it with me and SK and that was it. That link, if you type that link in, you'll find that call. It's right there. They've always had the recording. Now in terms of
Jeb,
you might have also noticed I spent thousands
Jeb, you
of
there?
dollars on her.
I'm still here.
So
okay.
I also sent Kira. I sent Kira the I spent thousands of dollars on her tweet that you mentioned in your doc and complained about. Now, what I want to do real quick is I want to quickly. Oh my God. How do I? Give me 1 second. So I have to go to my messages with Kira. I'm trying. I just need to make sure I've got. I spent thousands. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link. This link goes straight to that tweet. Look in the engagements. Look in the likes and the retweets. And you want to know who liked and retweeted it? Kira.
It was funny. What can I say?
Yeah. By the way, so regarding I want to quickly.
Jeb, can I ask you something? Do you understand the idea of downplaying something that is serious with like humor and levity, attempting to make light of a very serious situation just by being human and leveling. It's something like I'm not a fan of copy pastas personally, but I also get like situations like this and it being very heavy subject material and wanting to try to like have something that like helps you through it, because it's hard to just take the situation like 100% seriously, or at least approach and review it like without something to like lighten the mood or lighten the tone. That's what this kind of thing comes across to me as, and I'm not sure if you would say that you agree.
I do it for myself personally on my own situation. I make like, for example, my rape situation, I make live all the time. But in terms of with other situations, I always make sure they're comfortable with it first before I do anything. That's like, because they might not like it, like, you know.
Can I actually bring something up to you here, Jeb? I'm going to read out some messages that you sent the same day that this was playing out, February 13. I'm gonna get chase on you.
Just to build off of that,
chasing you. Neb is gonna.
I find that an understand.
Sorry, there was two voices going on at once.
The second voice is going to read out all the messages that you sent that are like not taking the situation seriously. Let's just say there's one or two screenshots where I think it counters what you literally just told me just there. You were for you to say like that you like want to make sure that other people are comfortable and you don't want to make jokes of a situation. I'm like, that's all well and good. I think it's an unreasonable like expectation, like even on a personal level, because it's kind of unreasonable to try to reach out to the parties that are involved in this and like in the interests of not like offending them or something like that. I mean, it's a good intention. It's just not necessarily realistic in my opinion, but I get that if that's your position. Southpaw is about to show you a couple of screenshots that seem to fight that narrative that you just told us, though.
Which would be screenshots I don't stand by.
Okay, but well, here's the thing: is you can say that you don't stand by, but you were saying them at the time, just hours before I spent thousands of dollars on her. Which then you're showing a screenshot in your own doc of your friends just hours after all these jokes, complaining about this. What's that about? Did you just change your mind within a couple of hours?
The screenshots are in relation to what you were doing in the. Let me just check on. In the VC.
In my view on South. No, I'm sorry. No. Because you have this screenshot right here in your doc, and it shows Neb posting this. I assume Neb is lovey-dovey because that's Spider-Gwen, as opposed to piss, cunt, spastic, faggot, and nigger. Lovey-dovey, or Neb says, it is now like he is teasing it on Twitter with a Zendai Ugg emote. There's that I spent thousands of dollars on her tweet that Kira liked and retweeted. And you said, bruh, the fuck are you doing? Ah! No. So I'm not accepting that.
Okay, so to explain that would be in relation to jokes being made in the public sphere where people would be like, wait, what's the context of this? Like, for example, when the I am suicide thing, people are like, oh, what hot take is this related to? People start asking questions, it draws attention to it.
Okay, so I don't believe in this. I will say something differently in private than I will in public. That seems kind of two-faced. I am perfectly fine with telling jokes both in private and public. I guess that different strokes for different folks.
Well, I don't think framing it as two-faced is entirely the way to go about it. I think pretty much most people have a filter of what they would say privately and what they would say publicly.
Okay, but
not necessarily using the word two-faced. Doesn't it come across as like fighting your principles if you will make jokes about these types of situations in private, but in public you put on a facade that you take it 100% seriously? Doesn't that come across as like in earnest, if nothing else, to you?
Well, I would say in this context, no, because obviously there was, in terms of at the time, there was nothing like outwardly publicly, at least from me, at the time. But take it, I think the perfect example is in jokes, right? You don't, well, I don't know about you, but for me, in jokes stay between obviously friends because they're in jokes. If I start putting them to public, people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Or what the hell sort of deal.
Okay.
Sure, it depends on the context. It's kind of the nature of like copy pasta humor, but yeah.
Yeah. So what what you could say this is in relation to the $1,000. You could classify it as an in-joke, could publicise it, then ask the questions. And it's like, hang on a second. Now people are asking questions, it's drawing attention to the situation.
So is your problem the jokes, or is your problem that it ties into questions that people might ask that lead into the sensitive material?
The latter. Because
Okay.
the idea was to obviously keep it private, and then with the VC, Southpaw wanted to get it to Kira, obviously, and then it goes from there. Whatever happens, type deal.
Southpaw, Kira, thoughts?
I mean, at the time, I just thought it was funny. I still think it's funny. I personally have no issue with it. I think at the time I wanted to have some sort of talk or conversation about it, so I had no problem with, that I spent thousands of dollars on her. Because when I heard it for the first time in the actual call, I was like, this has gotta be a copy pasta. I just think the way I see it and with how Chase presents himself, he comes off like it's just he digs himself in a hole and he just keeps digging, and it's so easy to make fun of him. It's so easy just to take what he says and make a joke out of it. That's how
Seriously,
I feel.
you got to just appreciate that as a sentence. That's literally, he's thinking about his money and how the money that he wasted in he sees it as a waste in a relationship when he was the abuser. It's
it'd be like Dom the donkey being like, I spent thousands of dollars on e-com, it's so immaterial.
Yeah.
Bit of a dark joke to reference, but it's still a joke that can be applicable, and obviously Kira finds it funny. So
personally, I try to laugh about this kind of stuff anyway, because it really takes away the power that he really tries to have in all these situations of trying to be serious and all that. So when I make fun of it, it becomes less of an issue for me personally. It's hard to take him seriously anyway.
Can I?
Well, and Jeb, you seem to imply that the same was the case for you with the abuse that you had, right? That you try to make light of it, at least to yourself.
Yeah, for myself, most definitely, and I'm comfortable with others doing it. And I've outlined how I'm comfortable with it. And likewise, if I feel that it's a bad day for me with it, I also voice that just today I want it a bit more serious type deal, because it's like a day-by-day process.
For sure.
Don't you think your doc reads differently? It doesn't read like what you just told us.
No.
Did you maybe change your mind?
I
mean, we can. It's kind of here, right? The one screenshot of your doc is a.
Right, because you said there's also one final aspect. There's one individual in all this that has been open in them being a victim to this during the whole ordeal. They were never consulted. They were repeatedly ignored, too. There was no awareness of how he saw things, and maybe they could shed light as being a victim themselves with no way of proving it. This individual is myself. I've been sexually abused and raped by my manipulative ex. I'm very sorry about that, by the way, Jeb. The tactics by Chase, or like the ones she did, that's awful. This brought a lot back. Again, I'm sorry, and no care at all was made towards someone who's supposed to be Southpaw's friend. This was the key straw that made me confident that there will be distance between our community and him. The lack of compassion or basic humanity over something so serious and no signs of improving despite repeated promises, that was it. But the problem is, Jeb, that the day that this was happening, you were saying all of this. So that kind of gets me to think, I'm in a jokey mood. I'm a jokey person. I like to tell jokes. I love dark humor. I love to lighten the mood.
Well, not only that, this paints it like Southpaw did not treat the situation seriously at all, which again, we've shown you context of him doing the opposite of such. No matter what you think about him doing the whole call in SK server, for which I already said, I disagree. I wish he hadn't done that, but still, that was with an intention, an intention to shed light on the situation, basically.
Evan, I'm so sorry. I'm going to push back. So the call, we did it in a public VC. I wanted to be.
Yeah, it was to get. It was to have other people see it.
I also wanted
to be lighthearted and to help get some guide. You wanted a lot of people to help you out, basically, and get you through it.
No. I also wanted time. I wanted time. I wanted to be transparent about what I said in the recording. Okay, it's like when I'm being goaded into, when you guys are pressuring me into publicizing the recording, which was, by the way, not a good idea. But you guys pressured me into thinking that. I was like, okay, then the VC should be fine. But you guys didn't communicate that the VC wasn't fine. You kept that from me.
Yeah. I wish I was not one of the parties egging you on. I'm sure you would agree. I wish that you had done the hypothetical that we talked about with that. I think you agreed as much. Whatever's happened. It already happened. It's done. It's the scenario I wish had happened instead of the one that we got.
My position at this point, Evan, is that based on what happened just before this VC, I did nothing wrong because I was pressured into this, basically. You can, I don't hold anything against you, and you can have your thoughts that you have. Just understand, this was after I was basically peer pressured into this. I don't think that this call that shouldn't have been on SK's VC. Having said that, however, I don't think that anything would have worked for me to begin with, even if this happened in private, because this honestly feels like, with all of the stuff that I've been going over here, this really feels like, especially when I'm sharing screenshots.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That's how it feels. It feels like this was like.
Well, I would agree.
When you're sharing screenshots of GCs and you're just back talking me, and you're not communicating these issues with me. This feels like, oh, you guys were scheming to slit my throat.
Well, considering how sensitive the matter was in the first place, just in isolation, it's a difficult thing to say what was like the correct, quote unquote, thing to do, or like the best way to handle it. I just, again, like that, it comes down to me almost wishing like the perfect scenario that I envisioned had happened.
When they're pressuring me to publicize the recording, I don't think that's a good thing to do, but like the right thing to do. But you know what? I'm not going to assume it was malicious of them to do. Like I'm sure they did have the intention of helping Kira when they were saying that. I hope that was why they were saying that. I have no reason to just make blanket accusations that they didn't. But the thing is, that wasn't their best move either. But that's what they were telling me to do, regardless of how they try to frame it now. And Sky literally tried to double down on this, and I confronted them, and I confronted her. I confronted her, and I pushed back, and she had to concede in the middle of that call.
All right. I don't morally condemn you. It's just a disagreement I have. It's a philosophical thing.
It's fine.
Yeah, I would have handled it differently, but I obviously wasn't there, and I'm not you. So yeah.
Yeah.
Where were we? We were what? The messages kind of, or
I mean,
Jeb, your input on this. I mean, again, I'm sorry that we've been talking too much, and I know it's probably 2 a.m. where you are, but
yeah, for me, obviously, I didn't join the VC because I was already annoyed at the fact there was a VC and SK server, because I'm like, but that's to me, if you're dealing with something sensitive, I think the last place you kind of go to is SK server.
Kira, do you have anything to say about that?
Sorry, my mom just walked in.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay, sure.
Do you want me to continue, or should we wait for Kira?
Well, okay, so.
All right, sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, so Kira, what would you have to say about what Jeb had to say about the VC being not on SK server?
I can't really say anything personally, just because I don't feel like I even know what I would have done in that position. I don't really care that it was done that way personally. It doesn't bother me. Because I remember people just watching the video, and we were all joking about it and talking about it. And for me, I remember being like, oh wow, like feeling kind of validated that something at least was being done to some degree.
We were making fun of just Chase too. We weren't ever making fun of Kira.
There was never it was never like, at my expense. It was always at the expense of Chase.
And this was
That
after,
is something.
This was also like just after
Chase helped you in that regard, but with the recording. But like, it's
what I will also say is that like the recording, the call was had before Kira posted any evidence. That's the important thing to factor in, is that this was on the 1st, and Kira starts posting receipts on the 4th.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way,
could I just ask you, Kira, regarding like you were talking about the perfect scenario or like what you would have done? I was one of the people that read your Twitter thread, and I think at the end of it, you said something to the effect that you just like wanted to move along and be left alone. And when I read that, if I'm recalling correctly, I tried to like basically get people to go quiet. Did you want like more attention, like more press on the call and what you were talking about, or did you kind of just want to like fade away and like have it be something that was left behind you?
Personally, it didn't matter to me. I think it was the latter. I just wanted to move on, but I think the main point of the doc, the main point of talking about it at all, was just so that people knew the kind of person that they were dealing with. So I had no problem with people talking about it and it being, brought up. For me personally, it was just kind of like it would get overwhelming. Of course, I would want to focus on myself for a little bit, but I would come back and, like I said, I wanted to get justice and all that. It would still kind of be in the back of my mind,
We've kept on saying that this was done for timestamp collection, and there's messages between Sky and SK where Sky's complaining that I wasn't saying, hey, let's take this timestamp down. But then Sky also admitted that there's nothing evidentiary in the call to begin with. So maybe that's why I'm not saying let's take that timestamp down, because that's not valuable. Just like think for 2 seconds, Sky. You say this one thing at one point, and you say this other thing at like within 10 minutes, and you're not connecting the dots. And you're making this like really weird like conjecture and like just leaps of logic. It's weird. Especially I actually want to highlight something. Jeb, I don't know what you think of Mahler not saying anything to publicly support Kira when Chase actually did admit stuff to him, which he gave me a very watered down version of events than he gave to Mahler. What I'm going to say is after I contacted Kira, I first contacted Kira, and then I contacted Mahler, because Mahler told me what Chase said to him and Wolf. And when I contacted Kira, I literally messaged Mahler. This is in my doc. I'm showing him like, hey, Kira wants you can't say we can't use this excuse of Kira doesn't want to be involved anymore. They do want to be involved. Let's help them out. Let's tell them like I think maybe you and Wolf should talk to them and tell them what Chase said to you guys. And Mahler agreed. And you know what? That message, that long message to Mahler that you talk about, I don't stand by the sentiment that I had there anymore. I think that Mahler should have said something publicly, but I don't think that he should be condemned for not saying anything publicly. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because, you know what? When I contacted him a few months later, he took action. He spoke to Kira. He agreed. I gave Kira their contact info. Kira had a call with Mahler and Wolf. And I just kind of laid it to rest after that.
Fair enough.
So it's just kind of weird that like I messaged you back in October 2022 and told you about this, but apparently this didn't hit gray matter. Like that, like to give you a proper analogy, that would be like, I mean, a direct analogy. That would be like if Mahler has his talk with Kira, and then a year later, I just hate his guts so much, I decide to just jettison that out of my memory, and I'm hating on him for not saying anything publicly. Again, I'd say he should have, but you shouldn't. I don't think that he should be condemned for not saying anything publicly, because I think this is a kind of complicated situation, and because he did help Kira when I prompted him, that seems indicative that, if anything, his lack of action in this time can be chalked up to just a reasonable lack of confidence in what to do. And regarding me messaging Kira, the reason this happened in June was because, I'll highlight this real quick. Kira deleted this tweet since, but thankfully this was sent. I sent this to Mahler on Discord. where Kira says, I've grown and I'm back, and after a long time to develop as a person, I've become stronger than ever before. I know I said I wouldn't talk about Chase anymore, but the fight isn't over. I'm not done. I want justice. Now, I found this tweet myself, and the reason why was because I would occasionally check in on Kira. Because even though Kira said that they didn't want involvement in this anymore, I understand this thing about humans where their opinions are not set in stone. So keep tabs on Kira, and I did. As you can see, there's a 16-day gap between them saying this and me contacting them. I didn't look at them every single day, but I checked in every now and then. I saw that Kira said that, and I immediately jumped into their server. I didn't have to jump through many hoops. But the point here is I was proactive in keeping tabs on Kira. You definitely weren't urging me to keep tabs on Kira. None of your friends were, because you weren't my friends at that point. No one was urging me to do that. I just did that on my own time. And as soon as I saw that Kira was ready to talk, I got into their server. I told them about it. I gave them the recording. I explained everything to them. I admitted, yeah, I vented about EFAP. And you know what's interesting is there's all these screenshots of you guys complaining about me, quote, making it about EFAP just because I would vent about it occasionally, even though this was like a month after the awful wolf call. I've had multiple calls with Kira about this, and Kira does not understand this perspective at all. I mean,
yeah, I'll simplify this for you, Jeb. Kira's right here. Southpaw's here. Your dossier that you wrote is somewhere out there. Now, as we sit here now, and as you read through that, do you stand by anything? Because Kira's right here.
The two elements one I definitely stand by, but we need to be in agreement that it really shouldn't have been in SK server. At least Evan and I agree on that.
I agree that it shouldn't have been an SK server, but the problem is that you guys peer pressured me into doing this publicly. So I'm not going to give ground to the idea that this is indicative of character or anything. I'd say that, you know what? Sure, it shouldn't have been on SK server. You guys shouldn't have been urging me to release this recording publicly. Deal? Are we going to call it a wash?
I think that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, okay, let's call it a wash. You guys urged me to release this publicly, so I decided to go through this publicly. If you're going to take issue with me doing this on SK server, I think that you have to concede you've been, again, your own messages say several times, release this recording to show others that Chase is a fuckhead. How am I showing others that Chase is a fuckhead if I'm just sending it to Kira directly? Your own
Kira already said that they didn't have a problem with it either, so.
Yeah, so it's like, so right there is like, if you should not be judging me for going through this recording publicly when you guys were goading me into releasing this publicly, or some parts of it, which, by the way, you mentioned there's your own message screenshots show you saying maybe edit out parts of it. I showed Kira the full unedited recording. So I'm not editing out any parts where I'm like, I'm a little embarrassed I'm talking about EFAP here. No, I gave Kira a chance to see everything that I said, and Kira took that in with understanding and grace.
Okay, and the second thing, although it's not something I'm like super stubborn on, because Kira's obviously fine with it, I think in an ideal scenario, it would have been best, at least with the copy pass as such, if possible, to have conferred with Kira that she was definitely okay with jokes being made at the expense of it. And that goes to me as well, because obviously I make jokes privately before actually making said jokes.
Well, I also want to highlight something, because there's one thing that you could have said as a rebuttal and you didn't, but I wanted to just nip this in the bud. Because someone in the comments of this video might be go, well, that's post hoc. Like, Southpaw couldn't have known that Kira would be okay with it. The reason why I figured this was not a problem was because they were at the expense of Chase. And I know people who have been in Kira's position who were okay. It's just like this. It's a safe assumption that Kira's okay with jokes being made against Chase, especially after hours of you saying things like, Neb is going to get prison raped like Chase. Or, I'm going to get Chase on you, fat, sweaty 28-year-old chasing you. Or, when you say to Naira, get genital mutilation, Naira responds with blood spoon emotes.
Yeah, like, listen, you don't need to read those out. You seem to agree that the the messages that you made with the jokes unfortunately kind of throw a wrench in your philosophy. Like it's almost
It's like it's like I got goaded into thinking that jokes are okay, and then suddenly they're not okay, and that's not being communicated to me. That's not fair.
Yeah, it kind of defeats itself because there's like just the inherent hypocrisy to the fact that those screenshots were there on that exact same day. If it's a philosophy you have now or maybe held tentatively but didn't abide by 100%, like that's fine. But it's just like it defeats the second point in my opinion, considering the fact that you made those jokes. So I don't know if you would agree.
It'd be a philosophy I have now. Obviously, at the time I couldn't have because
Well, I mean, you might have had that philosophy at the time, but maybe you made jokes or like went against your own word.
Well, I'd say
I think we're all guilty of that to some effect.
Yeah, but I'd also say like 2022, I was a bit more like quote unquote edgy type deal, where it's like edgy humor, super funny type deal. Where it's a bit
I learned.
It's a bit more like mellowed out,
but
rather than
when
super edgy.
But when you then post in your doc this whole thing of I was never consulted and Southpaw never listened to me, but it was like, well, I did listen to you, Jeb. I listened to you, and what you said at the time was, I'm gonna get Chase on you, fat, sweaty 28-year-old chasing you, nig fag, and Ned is gonna get prison rape like Chase. I did listen to you, and you led me to believe that this was fine. That's kind of how it comes across. So I want to go over one more thing. I mean, there's a bunch of things to go over. Really, there's like 230 pages just for this talk about this Kira thing. You really dropped the ball with this.
Like I said, I was expecting the 6-hour grind. I'm just gonna lay this out for you, Jeb. We don't need to go through everything because Southpaw is gonna release that doc. Like I said, I don't think many people are gonna read it, and I think people are mostly just gonna watch this video. But it's all there. Anyone who watches this, like, just read it. Even some, like, as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen, like pretty much everything in the dossier, depending on how many people cared about the 15-page dossier that Jeb wrote in January,
I mean,
it's all like dispelled basically inside of that doc. So read it and decide for yourself.
The first chapter is titled "Southpaw Doesn't Care About Sexual Abuse Victims." There is going to be eyes on this baby, especially when this is stuff that's been swirling on me for 2 years thanks to Shandy's lies. So the next thing I want to go over real quick is this message that you frame as a big deal. This is not a big deal. I'm happy saying that in front of Kira. The point of this message was to literally the last part of the message is saying maybe that will give you the drive you need to use your platform to actually take action and stand up for Chase's latest victim, because after all, we both know how you care so much about victims of sexual abuse, right? Now, Kira, do you have any problems with this message?
I'm so sorry. Repeat that last message for me.
Right. So in this message that
we didn't read it, but yeah.
Yeah. So in the screen cap, in the latest screen cap at the very end.
Oh, you're talking about
the big long message, the one that TMR said I sound like a Batman villain in this message.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, maybe that will give you the drive you need to use your platform to actually take action and stand up for Chase's latest victim. Referring to you, Kira. Because after all, we both know you care so much about victims of sexual abuse, right? This was a month after Wolf complained that I called them, quote, rape apologists, because I publicly called them out on victim blaming. That was cool. Kira, do you have any problems with this message?
Victim blaming.
Oh, I'm talking about EFAP's victim blaming from like 5 months before this. No, or like 4 months before this. I'm saying, are there any problems with this message here?
No.
Do you feel like I was making this about EFAP or terriers?
No. No.
Why is
You
that?
can have multiple conversations or multiple topics, but still like have the main topic still
Yeah.
be like main focus, but you can still go off on other topics, and that's
Multiple
still fine.
multiple people can be going through like something, and it's fine. You know what's actually interesting is there's multiple recordings now, multiple calls. There was one that Kira and I did just yesterday, and we actually hit on this topic a lot. We talked about this in the sense of people who've gone through the ringer will be understanding of each other and will validate each other and won't do this weird oppression Olympics thing or I should be the only focus. And when you guys say that Kira should be the only focus in the world, I feel like you kind of do a disservice to Kira because Kira's a lot more compassionate than that. Ironically enough, that's Chase's mindset because I'd vent to Chase and he'd complain that I wasn't focusing on him. Kira's not Chase though, very clearly. I mean, I'll tell you what, it would be one fucking crazy dissociative identity disorder case if she was actually like Chase. That'd be.
Or what if I just pulled down the zipper like in SpongeBob and I came out?
I feel
it's like Split.
It's M. Night's new movie.
But yeah, I think it's kind of like an unrealistic standard to have. It's gonna happen. You're gonna go talk about other things. I can't always be the main focus, even in my own story, because there's other people involved. So I won't always be the main focus.
I'm like, the truth is, Kira, you're not like some little delicate flower that like just like you can't tell jokes about the situation. It's like, no, you can't do that. It'll offend them.
And here's the thing: is that message is directed at Mauler because you guys were telling me, and send your screenshots even that people in Mauler's server were saying that Kira's a liar. And so it's Mauler's audience that's kicking up a fuss on his Discord. You're making Mauler's Discord my problem, and I'm thinking, well, they'll listen to Mauler, so maybe I'll message Mauler and be confrontational and angry with him because of the fucking wolf call. Of course, I'm angry with him. And then a month after this, or just a month and a half after this, I mentioned to you that Mauler couldn't even be arsed to say anything in public, and your excuses for Mauler here were, you know what he said? He said he won't go public because it will cause shit for Kira. Not only this, it is called a chase. He said he needs to get help and do every action he can to right the wrongs of those he's hurt. That doesn't matter in terms of like, that doesn't help publicly support Kira, by the way. Along with that, he chose to cut ties. That doesn't help Kira when people in Mauler's server are doubting her. He also never recorded the VC, so even if he had gone public, he didn't have proof. Wait a minute, I thought you told me to go to Kira directly. But here you are saying that your excuse for Mauler not publicly supporting Kira is that he couldn't publicly provide proof. And you're saying that would have hurt Kira more. But also, so not being able to publicly provide proof would have hurt Kira more. But also, you didn't want me to publicize this. Which is it?
I think those two things could be true because you had the recording, Mauler doesn't.
Okay.
Mauler would just say,
but
Chase did this.
You guys admitted that there's nothing in the recording.
Also, Chase told Mauler everything, right?
Chase told
or at least
Mauler
his
everything.
side, of course.
Yeah,
pretty much everything. You were almost reviewing based on what Mauler conveyed to you. That's why you knew things to basically go over again.
That's why this is why I literally link this recording in this doc and let people see it, is because Chase says some weird things. He mentions that he started dating a girl when she had just turned 17. That's fucking weird, but that's legal. And what Kira was talking about was stuff that was illegal. It's legal in his state, at least. It's creepy. It's weird. But when we're talking about like illegal allegations, that's not enough. In terms of like, again, I had this call with Chase before Kira brought out the receipts. So, like, based on what knowledge I had at the time, not like I don't have anything to hide in this VC. Sure, if this VC was had after Kira posted the receipts and I saw the receipts, that's one thing. Kira just posted hearsay. I listened to Chase's side of the story. I gave him benefit of the doubt in some cases. There's something he said about an Adderall-induced intrusive thought. That's what he chalked up his thing with his cat to. And you know what? I actually kind of that successfully manipulated me because I have a personal experience with someone who went crazy because of medication. But otherwise, it's just I'm giving a guy the benefit of the doubt and being innocent until proven guilty. He says some weird things, but it's not evidentiary. I'm doing the same thing that you were when you went through the recording. You're like, this isn't really enough proof. So yeah, but and this is the thing is that you said that Mueller did, like I had a recording and Mueller didn't. Well, Jeb, this is just a month and 10 days after you said that there isn't really anything in this recording because as you can see, that message that was posted there is from March 30th, 2022. And when you said that there wasn't anything of value in the recording, that was February 18th, 2022. I understand that I'm dropping a lot on you. I'm trying to like wrap this up because Kira, I think Kira
and that
wants
it's
to be
3:30 a.m. more than likely.
Yeah.
And
I'm doing this as a courtesy. I'm trying to do this as a courtesy for everyone except Evan, who is privileged and lives 3 hours behind me. and 8 hours.
You say that, but I had a 5 a.m. shift and came out of a 9-hour shift. Not 100% lollipop land for me, but still.
I'm going to just call this out for what it is. This is a double standard between me and Mahler. Straight up. You're making excuses for Mahler not going public. You didn't
But pressuring Southpaw to release the recording.
And getting mad at me for not doing it in exactly the manner that you wanted. And even when I mentioned to you, by the way, Kira got the recording because here's the thing, is Kira didn't get the recording at first because it was just unfortunate timing. Kira tweeted out, I don't really want that, I don't want anything to do with this, but because I understand how humans work and sometimes they change their minds, especially someone like Kira in their position, I kept tabs on them. I was proactive on my own time. Why would I do that if I did not care about Kira in this scenario?
Well, and by the way, Southpaw, hilariously enough, even like you distancing yourself in the first place, I think I was the one who came to you telling you that like about the Twitter thread and saying that like they wanted to be left alone. So I was advocating for shutting it down, and I was the one who was trying to get everything shut down. And
Kira didn't say
you're the one who kept tabs in spite of it.
Well, Kira didn't say anything until the day after. But I mean, I did see that they said they wanted out, and I respected that, and Jeb and Sky did too. Now it's really interesting, by the way, because Jeb and Sky had the recording, and they want to complain that I wasn't going to do anything to release it. But like the thing is that you guys also had the recording, and you could have released it yourselves if that's such a big deal, but you didn't do that. So there's this the problem here is that like when someone, if you and a guy know something. And a guy is not blowing the whistle, and you're complaining about the guy not blowing the whistle, but you could also blow the whistle and you're not blowing the whistle, you're kind of complicit too. So if not releasing the recording is a problem, then that's on you and Sky too. But also not releasing the recording is not a problem. Especially when I did send Kira the recording at the first chance that I could. I'm going to correct myself. I could have sent them the recording on May 30th if I saw it, if I was like stalking them and checking their Twitter constantly. But I checked them sporadically. As soon as I saw it, took action. And by the same token that I don't judge Mahler anymore for not saying anything at the time, because he did at least talk to Kira. Sure, he didn't ever publicly support Kira, but he did at least reach out to them. That's enough for me to go, I don't think that he was like callous about this scenario.
Jeb?
Oh, sorry, I was seeing if it was finished. I agree in a sense that we can't chastise you for not publicizing it. And also, like, the only counter you could put towards the idea that if we had recorded, we could release it, it's the fact that it's your recording.
No, I'm sorry. If I have like
can I finish? Can I?
Sure, you can.
So it's yours a chase recorded. So if we just dropped a recording you sent us, like just publicly, without your permission, I don't think that'd be great either. To be honest.
Okay, so you would sooner prioritize my privacy over helping a victim then?
Well, no, because the alternative can be that it just gets sent to Kira directly, and then she decides what to do with it.
Okay, so why didn't you keep tabs on Kira like I did? If you care about Kira so much.
Well, for one, I generally didn't know her Twitter handle. I didn't even know she was using Twitter, to be honest. Because
you could easily search it because you just simply search. Like Kira's tweets were shared in that GC, so you could
hold on.
Follow their Twitter.
Jeb, that's a kind of a thin excuse, in my opinion.
That's why I'm trying to go on to the rest.
Please do.
And secondly, you are right. We could have kept tabs on Kira. I was also doing. When was this? 2022. Fuck me. Yeah, a lot of shit happened in 2022. I was dealing with a family member passed away, education, job, trying to move, and all that crap. Like 1 month after the other, it wouldn't stop. So yeah, but we could have kept tabs on Kira, and I'm glad you did, because in the end, she is now able to take those next steps that she wants to take.
And they did.
And that's good. And that's very positive. And we could have done tabs on Kira, yeah.
You sure could have. And the other thing that factor in is maybe you guys deleted it. That's a thing. But like, if you guys deleted them, that means that means that you guys locked yourselves out of potentially being the one. There's an alternate universe. There's an alternate universe where you are the ones who keep tabs on Kira and contact them and send them the recording. And this call maybe plays out a little differently because then I just
want to ask, because it seems to be under the knowledge that we had the recording. At least to me, I've never had this. I've never downloaded this recording or anything.
Sky did. Okay.
I don't know if Sky still had it at the time.
Sky says that she deleted it, and I believe her. But so that's the thing is, I highlight this as like, why didn't you do it? Or you deleted it, but then that means, well, again, there's so many recordings that I still have. I recorded the EFAT movies Aquaman that's never been released. That's still on my hard drive. I have a lot. I have all my
Aquaman got released. The Birds of Prey one didn't.
Aquaman got released? Okay. Well,
I think so.
I don't think Aquaman got released.
I don't know.
I've got all my watch parties of BTAS with Evan when we first went through it. The one that I supposedly showed evidence that I'm a bad critic by myself when it was Evan and me going through the whole thing. But that's a whole other thing. The point is that I kept this stuff because I figured that, like, I still kept the call because it would still be useful. And then it did because I provided it to Kira.
Yeah, I could say, at least for me, I've never downloaded the call ever.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of keeping things, I'm regularly cleaning out my drive to do defragging to keep it up to date, because I've got to deal with like thousands of things. Network and work.
I had, well, that's why I buy external hard drives. I don't like deleting things if I think it's gonna be useful.
Yeah, I keep all my movie files on external hard drives.
It's very nice.
Do quite a bit of good.
They give you extra terabytes. It's a lot of data that you can use. And then I also was able to. Well, that's the thing is that I once I saw I could give it to someone, I uploaded it on Google Drive and then gave it to Kira. I gave the link to Kira, and it's still up there. It's still openable. So
I do want to point out it's like nearly 2:30, so if we can try to wrap it up.
Of course.
Because I've got hospital.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you know what I'm gonna. So Jeb, here's the thing: is Kira is not really a public figure, and so I wanna read out something to you, because from your doc and from your framing of events, because Kira is not a public figure and is not someone that you are ever in touch with, people don't really get a chance to know them. Well, the first things first, I was in contact with them from June 2022 and did not tell them that this was happening until until this January. And the reason why was because I really wanted to avoid dredging this up to them, and I really wanted to avoid this kind of call happening in the first place. Madvocate found out about all this context and was going to talk to you guys. He was going to talk to you guys. He would have talked to you guys about this, and that actually was my last resort to have this quashed with you guys, potentially forever, because you guys would, I assume you would have listened to Madvocate without having to get Kira involved. Because of what SK did in deceptively framing events to you, because he did, this has had to happen. I'm not happy with SK. I'm really not happy with SK. Now, the thing is here that for you, Kira's a total stranger, and you wouldn't know much about them other than that they dated Chaseface at one point, and that Chaseface groomed them. And I think that's why in your doc, throughout the entire thing, you only basically ever refer to Kira as a victim, and there's no emphasis whatsoever on the personality. So I want to just simply read this out, because this is from my doc, because I want people to, like, since we're dragging Kira into this, I want people to understand this isn't just a person who's a pawn against me in some weird game. Kira's my friend. I've watched through most of Terriers with them. We're planning on doing the Batman pretty soon. We're gonna do a Batman watch party.
Yes.
I just want to say that Kira is the kind of person who is strong, is kind, is understanding, is appreciative, is a really great person. In the first call that I had with them, you can hear the nervousness and anxiety in my voice because I'm still dealing with all the stuff that you and your friends were dredging up, and their reactions and their bubbly disposition, you can hear my anxiety just leaving. This is a person who is a really good person, did not deserve what Chase put them through. They want everyone around them to be happy. It's a really good person, and SK betrayed them. He was in that VC watching through this with Kira. Kira was in that GC with SK at one point.
And I talked to him.
Apparently, I guess SK felt so hurt, his ego felt so hurt that he decided to, even though he knew that this stuff that you guys were dredging up was nonsensical, decided he was going to basically throw B under the bus and throw Madvocate under the bus, prevent him from having a talk with you guys about this when he knew that was going to happen, which would have prevented you from this awkward fucking call, I imagine. And it's led to me having to be Kira, like, Kira, I need help. But you know what is so great about Kira is Kira went through this whole first chapter with me. That's a recorded thing. It's like a quasi audiobook of most of the first chapter. And they said at the end, I'm so sorry that this has happened. I'm in shock that this is happening to you. Kira's a good person. Is not just a victim, but is a genuinely great person.
Jeb, it's up to you where this goes. You're the one with little time, obviously. We've went through a lot of this, and we've been doing most of the talking, but it's up to you. I'm going to be like perfectly blunt. This does not look very good for you. In fact, I think this looks really, really bad. And I think that this call is going to be pretty fucking damning to you. Damage control can be done, but you have a lot of explaining and or backpedaling to do. This is something where, because you say you're willing to retract things that we've gone over in here, but like this is going to, people are going to read into this how they will in the call when they watch it, and it's up to you if you want to have other calls that like expand on some of this stuff. But from what we're reading, it seems like a pretty baseless thing, and Southpaw has a pretty thorough examination of it. So
maybe public streams, apology again, going at me over this constantly. Sky dredging this up constantly has the biggest grudge against me, and I don't know why. I change the description of my fucking videos to appease her. All of a sudden, like, she's asking for it, and it's a reasonable ask, and I appease her. I stand up for her in public when people are misgendering her.
Jeb, here's a question that I have for you, and this is what this all boils down to. Why don't you like Southpaw?
Bear with me. Bear with me a second. Sorry, my partner was just asking if I was okay.
Take your time.
Anyway, to be honest, I just feel apathy with Southpaw. As I said, with everything, I just like apathetic. Like the investment I have at this point is at most to hash out
It's
and just leave it be type deal rather than just like when Southpaw posted up. I've said it from the start. I'm not gonna pay much investment to it because it's been going on for like 2 years, and I'm just like, it's 2024. I can't keep doing the same thing. It's not productive or anything. Whereas a hashing out thing.
So
I
that's
understand.
my attitude on all of this. The only what I and I don't mean to toot my own horn in this regard. The difference between you and me is I'm the one who abandoned Twitter and abandoned my old alt account, and I'm trying to like stay away from like essentially the internet itself because I hate the drama that much that it's taken me to this call and all this to completely separate from it. But for you on the 21st here and a bunch of other things and over the course of the year that you're referring to, you do seem to hold a pretty passionate position on this. These were sent out. We don't need to read them, but yeah.
These were sent around Christmas, around Thanksgiving. I mean, it's just a lot of like, Southpaw, you're such a bad person. You're a bad person. And this is based on the perception that you had, this perception that it seems like it has just completely crumbled. The stuff about Kira. Yeah, sure. You know, if you believed what you believed about Kira at the time, I can absolutely buy thinking this stuff. But now it's like, but the problem is all of your evidence, all of your reasoning for that falls apart on basic scrutiny. I shouldn't have to write 800-page docs scrutinizing your claims. Everyone should be like, Jeb, what the fuck are you talking about?
Honestly, Southpaw, I think most people probably are. That was my reaction. Again, I think people are probably mostly apathetic to this. That's what I was.
I want to hear a concession on this whole Kira thing.
I thought, okay, I'll do a proper concession. I thought I did earlier, but
okay.
Again with the Kira thing, aside from the fact that I think it should have been an SK server, likewise it should have been publicized, both options. I'm not willing to put any character judgments on you. In fact, the fact that you've kept an eye on Kira, you've been helping her get justice and taking steps towards that, is a very good thing. And it's very good that she has yourself to do that, especially when you had the call with Chase. I imagine that was a huge boost. And then obviously the links with Mauler. So.
Okay.
All right.
So I feel like you can say that you don't care. The problem is you invested so much energy into tarnishing my reputation as a former friend, and people are looking at this like, wow, Southpaw's former friend really hates him. He must be a terrible person. That's how the optics look. You actually gloated at the end of last year. One second. I've got the screen.
Southpaw, we don't.
I know. But here's the thing, is that you can say that you don't care, but that's so easy for you to say after just months of this harassment. This hurts. You were my friend. You just don't care? You said all this on the basis of your delusions. And now that stuff's been torn away in front of you, you just don't care?
So maybe you're apathetic now. What were you here?
Well, at this point, it was just with the fallout, the Madvocate thing. So, obviously, there was a lot of anger around the Madvocate situation. Because, again, from my viewpoint, we agreed that any issues we bring to each other. And then all of a sudden, I hear from SK, the Madvocate's looking into our server. There's this idea that about our stream was floating around. And I'm like, what the hell? So I thought we agreed on this, and now suddenly things are being dredged up again. And then stuff ends up public whilst I'm hearing about it privately and such. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Well, they were dredged up because of Sky. Sky and Shaney wanted to get Madvocate to cut ties with me on the basis of what happened with Kira and Herf, which I think you've conceded to on both counts here.
Yeah, which I find the issue is, again, when we had that private call where we spoke to each other, as we said, any issues that we're aware of with regard to each other, and I, I would have been full well if I was told about Sky doing that.
Mhm.
I would have said to Sky, look, we shouldn't be doing this.
Mhm.
In fact, I don't agree with the whole thing that Madvocate should have to cut ties with you. I've never agreed with that.
Well,
I was perfectly fine with Madvocate being friends with you. Could give a shit. Otherwise, I'd have an issue with Evan.
just so you know, Kira just basically has to go. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
They've served their
I think
purpose. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Because obviously, I would take if I had issues with someone being friends with you, I would take issue with Evan. But I've never had issues with Evan.
Well, so
And I've never.
But that I'm sorry. Go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off.
I was just finishing there, essentially.
Well, I can jump on that because I do find it funny, honestly. I find it pretty interesting that you and Sky don't have a problem with me when I do consider Southpaw my best friend at this time. And it's like, I've basically stood by his side this entire time. And it's like, so it's weird that I'm special in that regard. It's weird that, like, for some reason I'm the privileged child. I don't know why. And it's just like, I find it funny just how much flack he gets. My only guess is that it's because he's on Twitter so much. That's what I think. He's a combative, argumentative. He's a lot more argumentative than I am, basically.
Well, Evan, the problem. So when you say that you think that you're the privileged child, the thing is that Sky said this to Madvocate. I hope we don't lose you as a friend too because we love you. She said, so it's a problem from my perspective for both for you and for us of him staying friends. And she said, a problem of them being your friends not being good for you, and a problem of them being awful people who have lied and tried to do and say some of the worst shit about us and other people. But I guess that she doesn't feel that way about you. What's the deal? She loves Madvocate, but she doesn't love you? She wants to protect Madvocate from me, but she doesn't want to protect you from me, I guess. That's the thing. It's kind of the thing is like when it comes to this thing with SK and Kira, it's like, SK, you were in contact with Kira, and it's because of you that Kira's gotten involved now. You betrayed Kira. Because this disrupted their healing process. They didn't have to get involved. They should not have gotten involved. And if Madvocate was allowed to do, again, Jeb, I'm telling you, SK did not frame things accurately to you at all. And that's what the third chapter of this doc is going to be all about this. But it shows very clearly that Sky and Shandy shot the first shot. They shot the first shot when Shandy shot the first shot when he posted his hit piece while he knew I was watching the Batman. Sky shot this shot again when just a month after like talking to me in SK and having all of her points about Kira debunked, which, by the way, Kira literally said basically the same things to you tonight that SK said to Sky. And Sky was given a chance to concede and let it go, but she didn't because she is not well. This is a not well person. She holds grudges. She rejects any explanations. She doesn't want to see me in good faith. She wants drama. So she and Shandy, who's also a little drama queen, have a call with Madvocate and try to tell him that I'm a bad person. And I'm a bad person because of Kira and Herf. And that's delusional. I say that in like not even a very dismissive, gaslighty way. I mean, the evidence is not on your side. And Madvocate asked me for this evidence. The thing is that like this doc is because people keep asking me about this stuff. If I had this doc already made, then I wouldn't have had to pour through all the time that I had to pour through, and I could have given this to Madvocate. And it would have showed him the exact same things that people are going to see when this doc is up and are seeing fragments of in this VOD because it's on screen. And this is like really salacious stuff. This does not look good for you guys. What this reveals is that Kira seems to have been used as a pawn in like this depraved, ego-driven game. Madvocate.
Yeah, do you have anything to say? I know it's like 3 a.m. for you, and
Yeah,
I think we're pretty much wrapping up here, but
I'm gonna have to like clock off any minute at this point, honestly, because
I get being quiet from being tired, but you gotta understand how it looks from our perspective, because we're bringing you all this, and we're mostly getting radio silence. I get if you're tired, but you do understand how bad this looks for you, right?
Well, it's just kind of like trying to process what's happened, and at 3 a.m. trying to think of what to say. I'm usually in bed about 4 hours earlier, so I'm generally shattered at the moment. Barely keeping it awake even.
I mean, I don't think it's going to help anymore when after you've had 8 hours of sleep and read through what the stock shows that we've only shown you a little bit tonight. There's a lot more. Like, the reason why the stock is so long is because you guys have done a lot. You guys have done a number on me. It's not 800 pages of whining. It's 800 pages of holy fucking shit. SK.
Well, and to be honest with like what is it like? Not almost 4 hours. I think I've done worse than what Southpaw has just done, because we've presented all of this and you've given us very little in the way of like what you could call like exculpatory points or evidence or anything like that. I feel like you've presented very little to a kind of a plethora of evidence and screenshots against your points.
Every single screenshot that you posted, I read out to you and I explained why it's wrong. And that's the point of the stock, is because you point out something that you think is evidentiary and it's wrong. And it's wrong for this reason. Like, SK should never have conceded to you guys and continued on with his bullshit Terriers pilling point, especially when there's a pro-trans episode of the show, funny enough. But that's neither here nor there. SK was against that. SK was against this thing with Herf. He agreed that the thing with Herf was baseless. There's receipts of this. He went back on that because he hates me. He was so angry with you guys over this Kira thing, then he decided that it was okay to just... Apparently... so did SK just, like, never talk to you guys about this? Did he just, like, never be like, pull you to the side, be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't use this against Southpaw. Southpaw was actually, like, doing the right thing. Can we just drop that, please? He didn't do that to you?
Not that I'm aware of.
So he was well aware of this, and he just decided to say absolutely nothing. He decided that this was okay to just let you guys, like, let fester with you guys. Wow, SK. What a great guy. Man, what a good guy you are. That's not at you,
that
Jeb.
reference.
That's not at you. That's a.
Oh, no. You've been shitting on SK and Sky quite a bit throughout this. It's been a theme.
My thing is, like, I just think that Jeb and Sky are just mistaken. I think SK, that's just plain old malice. And I'm going to ask something. I really wish that I could have made you promise this to Kira before Kira left the call, but Kira's involvement cannot be public until this doc is up. I do not want Kira, like, for their sake, I don't want there to be this fucking rumor mill swirling around. Kira is at a point where they're just not a public figure at all. I want that to last as long as possible. But they've agreed to every single time I've recorded a call with them, including this call. They knew that this was going to be recorded and publicized. They consented. They think that this needs to be publicized because they don't think that what's happened to me is right.
I double checked that, by the way. I made explicitly clear, the same way as I made it clear in this call, that this was something that I intended to record and publish. So there is evidence, and Kira said that to me directly.
So it's like, but the thing is, I don't want there to be talk on Twitter for fucking months before this doc is up to show the full context. I'd rather Kira have just enjoy whatever fucking peace they can still have that they were able to have until this January. Can you promise me that? You're not going to blow the whistle to SK or others. Do not tell them that I've spoken to Kira.
Yeah, you have my word on that.
Okay. You are on recording saying that. If you break it, it's going to look even worse for you. So if you want to save some face, and you're going to you've got to save as much face as you can based on what's coming. At least keep your word here so we can go. At least Jeb kept it to his word there. After my doc is up, you can say whatever you want. But I don't even want you talking about this to Sky. And if you, honestly, dude, if you don't even want to say anything publicly right now and say, I was wrong on these things about Southpaw, if you don't want to do that publicly, that's fine. But I will say this. After the doc comes out and there's radio silence from you, it's going to say a lot more about your character than if you were to just admit wrongdoing. It would actually show integrity to be like, yeah, so I would honestly recommend having a statement prepared. I think you're going to have to prepare a statement. Maybe do some soul searching, maybe some introspection in terms of, I said this stuff about this recording with Chase isn't evidentiary enough. You have to make a lot of assumptions, but I'm making a lot of assumptions to call Southpaw a transphobe. That's kind of messed up. Like, I owe him an apology. I owe him restitution. Like, his friends really... This whole thing with Mavik is... Well, again, Chapter 3 will cover this stuff. I didn't decide to drive Mavik away from you guys. Sky and Shandy really tried... Well, first it was Sky and Shandy. Then Shandy said it's okay, but then Sky's giving him an ultimatum. And there's so much more stuff that happened in that time, too. But, like, Chapter 3 makes it clear... Dude, I'm not at fault here. I understand, like, from your perspective, I must be at fault. But given what I've just outlined regarding this Herf thing and this Kira thing, I surely want at least a little bit of credibility to you in the sense of, like, give me the benefit of the doubt. Let me make my case. You don't have to believe me. You don't have to take my word for it, but let me make my case. And to your credit, Jeb, you're not engaging with this bullshit of the 800 pages memes and everything. You want to have this conversation with me. You've had this conversation with me, so you've done a pretty good job in this conversation. You're doing a lot better than SK. Certainly will. Certainly has.
And there's a reason why SK is not here. So,
although, I mean, here's the thing. I think that Jeb, we were planning for Kira to be here. We had a separate group chat that was just him and me and Kira, and we coordinated and made sure that Kira could be here to talk to you so that you could hear straight from the horse's mouth to put the kibosh on this for good.
Who's we?
Who's we? We
there is no
are
we.
Venom.
That was mostly Southpaw. I'm just joking.
No. The
in my approval though, but
yeah. But like I also asked Kira, and I was completely understanding if they didn't want to. But the thing again, Kira saw someone who was drowning and wanted to jump in and help, even if it meant they'd have to relive some things. And you know what they even did? Their docs that they originally posted with all the receipts don't exist anymore. And I originally wrote that, but guess what? While in a call with me going over this stuff, Kira was able to recover the receipts in those docs. She sent them to other people on Discord, and I was able to walk her through how to look up old conversations. Oh yeah, even if someone's blocked you can find old conversations, you can search them, and you can search has image and around this time, and that's what they did. And now I've got all 106 pages total of evidence that they originally posted, and that's in the stock now too. So in a sense, all that evidence against Chase that they originally posted that then they then deleted is now out there. It's not only something that she assembled, but I also mirror. Like I made a mirror. I've mirrored everything, by the way. I've mirrored your improv. I've mirrored the original doc from SK and you. I've mirrored everything. I've archived everything. There's no point in deleting anything. The best that you can do is just retract, because it's not going to look good if you try to delete something and scrub it from existence and memory hole it away. It would be, again, just if you want to be of integrity, be like, yeah, I've made a mistake. I've really, like, I mean, that's kind of what you guys wanted of me, but now it's your turn, and it's time to show the world what you're made of. That's kind of my final word. I think that basically speaks for itself.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
I'm sorry that this bled into. I mean, I wish that you didn't live in the UK and you lived in a better time zone.
Yeah, part of that was my fault. I should have asked for the earlier part of the day so that we could have talked earlier on. But it's what it is.
The Mavic.
You okay, Jeb?
Pardon?
You all right? Just.
I'm knackered. I'm shattered. It's 3 a.m.
I think we can wrap it up, honestly. I don't know if there's anything you want to note to either anyone watching or just to close out here, but obviously there's more that's in the doc and there's more that might come to light. You tell me.
The Madvocate situation could not be talked about. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeb.
That was Jeb's. Go.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, at least on my end, nothing is going to get publicized whatsoever. As you can see, especially like with the recent engagements, I've not gone anywhere near it except as school.
Okay.
All right.
I appreciate you agreeing to do this. I'm glad it took a while to come to fruition. I'm glad it did. I think we talked through most everything. We were imperfect with our tone, but I think we still got the points across.
It seems like the Mavic things.
I would say the door is open for like resolve, but honestly, it's between you two. I like to think there's maybe a better bridge way between you two. Maybe you guys could have a more productive conversation now without me. But I am serious that I'm done. So I hope this last action imparts some bit of goodness and maybe helps you guys to wrap things up. So, the only caveat I have is that I'm not a marriage counselor. So
I wish that the Mavic situation could have been addressed in this call, and if we had a couple more hours, it probably could have been. But the one thing I'll say is that because Shandy and Sky were trying to get Mavic to cut ties with me on the basis of this stuff, and like I can simply show you just a screenshot of Mavic saying this on September 11th.
We don't need to get into this.
I understand that. I'm just saying that this stuff with Mavic doesn't make sense without the Kira and Herf stuff, and with that out of the way, it's done. I think.
Yeah. Anyone else who's watching this can read it in the doc if they want or care. Feel free to make up your own judgments based on what we've talked about here, though. So. All right, Jeb, I won't keep you any longer. Thank you for holding it out as much as you did. I appreciate you being here and being willing to back up your points. So,
thank you for hosting me. If there's one thing to say to Southpaw, very good on you to keep an eye on Kira. I'm glad that she has someone.
Yeah, thank you. She's a great person. Beautiful person.
I will say with that part there is an apology, and I'll reach out to Kira privately on that one as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and I mean she's in this call, so you can easily
keep in touch. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna add her on my main.
If she asks me like, hey, why is Jeb sending her across? I'll be like, just accept it so that he can send you an apology. You know, that would be great.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah, she's gone. But seriously, thank you for Kira for showing up.
She'll hear that. She'll hear that, Evan, if she listens to the VOD.
Wait, you're gonna show it there? Really?
Well, the thing is that I literally sent. So I've also been privately streaming this. It's unlisted. I've been streaming it to the Slaughterhouse as they've been listening in on this, as well as Kira. That was the main utility of streaming this, was so that Kira could hear what was going on before they entered. So.
Okay, Jeb. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night's rest. Even though we've taken away half your night, but yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
Later.
Well,
you want a drink? Because I'm getting a drink.
Yes, fuck you, Alistair. This is better I can do this. Somehow I know it. I'll get...
If he really had something, he would have given it. It's that simple. If people start asking about it, I'll like, if enough people do, then I'll just be, all right, fine. I'll give out like a quick rundown of it. Because to be honest, however long it is, I don't think it should take too long.
Let's begin. I'm gonna make you wish that I'd stayed gone. Tune on in when I'm done. Your status quo will know its race is run. Oh, this will be fun.
Fuck!